The Artful Dodger Season 2 is officially out, and today I sat down with Marion Boyce, the costume designer of this season's iconic looks. So let's get into it. So I want to start by asking, when you're first designing, a costume for a scene, what comes first? Is it fabric? Is it color? Is it, something with the character and a mood board that goes with that? What is that beginning moment?
It's always character. Always character. That fuels everything that goes beyond that.
So with this season, there's so much action going on, but at the same time, it's set in, 1860s. What is it like designing costumes that, have to be accurate to the time, but also allow these actors to move around?
Well, that can be the really tricky part because these costumes have to do things as stunts and running and all sorts of stuff, and they really weren't made for that. Those big crinolines and panniers and stuff and corsetry. It's often not easy, but we just have to find a way and find fabric that actually will allow all of that to happen, but feel period accurate at the same time.
Very interesting. And how do you grab onto the fact that this show is, it's action, it's drama, but it's also romance? You have three different categories you're trying to kind of play with when it comes to the design for all of this. How do you mirror all of these together?
Well, it's really interesting. It is a really joyful piece, but it is quite serious in some ways and does have this really beautiful romance. But if you're really true to character, you read the emotional content of the scenes. And it just, you're guided by these fabulous scripts.
Was there one costume during this, this season that you particularly thought was, the most challenging or the most ambitious for you to kind of tackle?
I thought the most important one for me was Belle's opening frock. The one running through the street where she thinks Jack's about to be hung, I should say, because it was just such an emotional piece. It was the beginning of the season, and it was it had been a cliffhanger from the season before, and I just thought that was a really, really powerful scene, and I gave that a lot of thought, the colour, the style, the shape of that dress.
So was there one costume this season that you personally, if you could take it home with you, you would?
I think one of Lady Jane's, her big travelling coat, her beautiful velvet travelling coat, I would take home with me if I could.
Oh, I think I would agree with that, actually. I love it. So could you give us a little behind the scenes information of what it is like to, to do your work, to come into the office and start creating this? Like, what is that very first moment? Is there mood boards that you're all like coming together and doing? What is that kind of, progression? Like, give us the behind the scenes.
You always start with the scripts, and then I always really probably start with the colour palette. And then you have to find a way in. It's always a really interesting process at the beginning because you've got to find a hook. You've got to find the way in, and you've got to work out what the characters are about, how they interconnect, and how they all function together. And I equate it to like playing table tennis against yourself, and you bat ideas back and forth, and then finally it all comes together. It just, the penny drops, and it's a really joyful moment when that happens and you find the way forward. And then you start designing.
That's beautiful. I'd love to know about your personal journey into becoming a costume designer. What made you decide to go into this field of work?
I'd always loved textiles. I'd always been playing around with things my whole life. I started fashion design, but I never wanted to be. I always knew I didn't want to be a fashion designer. I was always incredibly interested in history and had a curious mind. So I started doing fashion, quite sort of offbeat fashion shows at nightclubs, and a director and a producer saw a show and asked me to do their film. I was quite young, and the arrogance of youth said, "That sounds fantastic." So I did. I started doing a film. I knew nothing about how to design a film. And I realised I found my tribe. I found my home, and that's how I became a costume designer.
Is there, a film or a TV show or even a book that was kind of inspiring to you when you were growing up when it came to the visual aspects?
Visual aspects. I've loved my favourite film that I watch it at least once a year is Out of Africa. It's this big, huge piece. The costumes are sensational. The landscape, the huge, big landscapes. Visually, it's one of the most magical pieces I've ever seen.
Is there a moment within this season right now that if you were looking at it and that you can tell us that you personally, it was like your favorite scene to see come to life?
When they all started dancing in the ballroom at the Venetian ball, that was really joyful because it's really tricky. It's a very tricky thing to dance in those frocks and to make them look beautiful and functional and to have a great joie de vivre. It's really, and that was actually a fantastic moment.
Oh, that was one of my favorite scenes this season by far. Like, especially the dresses. I think that was so beautiful. The way they were sweeping, like they almost had their own story within them, like just the visuals of the dress themselves.
That's very true. There's a lot of lyricism within those panniers and crinolines and stuff. And I'm always looking at the inner language in a way of a crinoline and the way it moves, because that's quite character driven. And it took me a while to find Belle's. It needed a certain movement, and Lady Jane's was a completely different movement, and so was Fanny's. Fanny's was really sort of frivolous.
Is there an era of time that you love designing for the most?
The era that I love the most that I've never designed for is the 1930s.
Ooh.
But that's my favourite era. I've done up to 1929. I've done 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and earlier. But I've never done the 1930s, and that I would truly love to do.
If you could describe this season visually in 3 words, what would those words be?
Joyful, frenetic, and poignant.
Oh, I definitely agree with those. That's perfect. But thank you so much for taking this time with me today and for creating such a beautiful, like truly masterpiece. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. I was watching with my family because I always watch my TV shows with my family. It's a big event for all of us. And we all said the same thing. It was just that we felt transported into this TV show from just the costumes, the visuals, and the overall feeling. So thank you for putting all that together.
Oh, thank you for such a lovely compliment, and thank you for having me. Nice to meet.